Howdy, first graders. It's me, Mr. B, here to talk to you about how to make more powerful sentences using appositives. Appositives. Can you say that word? Appositives. How many syllables are in appositives? Appositives. Appositives. Inside the word appositives is the word positive. That means appositive is a very positive word. And the reason they're called appositives is what they do is they add details to a story by telling something about a noun, or which is a person or a place or a thing in a sentence. So if you don't remember, we talked about appositives for the first time last week. So now we're practicing more about appositives because practice makes progress. If you don't remember, if you feel like, gosh, I'm kind of fuzzy about those appositive things that Mr. B is talking about, then please click on these two videos that are in your lesson for today. First, Introduction to Appositives, and second, the Appositive Self-Check video. That'll help you to recall what are appositives, and it's okay if right at the start of today's lesson you don't remember appositives, because scientists tell us you have to do something 27 times to get it firmly in your brain. So this is the second or third time maybe that you've heard of appositives, so it's going to take a while. And that's why we're doing this, is to get more and more little details about appositives into your brain so that you become more positive appositive writers. All right, so to help us practice appositives, I want to show you some examples of some appositives. So an appositive is a fragment. It's not a complete sentence, but it's part of a sentence that adds details by telling something about a noun, person, place, or thing. So here is a sentence. It says light blank. That's where the appositive fragment's going to go. Light reflects off of objects and then travels to our eyes, nerves, and brain. So we've been talking about that in science. We've been talking that light reflects off of objects and then travels to our eyes and nerves and brain. But we can make that an even more powerful sentence by adding details about light. So in the appositive, you want to think, what do you know about light? So what are some things that you know? Well, we know that light is the fastest thing in the universe. We know that light travels in waves. We know that most light on Earth comes from the sun. We know that light, I don't know if you know this, but I've heard in my 55 years of living, somewhere along the way I heard that light is energy you can see, right? So let's think, which of those would be the most interesting detail? Well, I don't know about you, but I think it's amazing that light is the fastest thing that we know in the universe. So let's add that. We're going to write here after the comma. So there's a comma after light. There you go. Get my finger out of the way. So light, the fastest thing in the universe, comma, reflects off of objects and then travels to our eyes, comma, nerves, and brain. All right, so let me see if I can set this up so you can watch while I type this in here. I'm just positioning my camera. Okay, let's see here. So if I bring the cursor over here right after the right after the comma. So light, comma, the fastest force in the universe. Okay, so I'm going to delete the rest of the blanks. But if I was writing with a pencil, I just write right on the blank, right? All right, so now it says light, comma, the fastest force in the universe, comma, reflects off of objects and then travels to our eyes, nerves, and brain. That is an interesting sentence. You've taught your reader a lot of cool things. All right, let's try the next sentence where it says Canada blank, that's where the appositive is going to go. So Canada, comma, blank, has more land but fewer people than the United States. We learned that when we were reading our book about continents, countries, and maps, right? So our appositive fragment is going to tell us more information about Canada, the word that comes before the appositive. So what do we know about Canada? Well, we know that they speak English and French. We know that there are neighbors to the north, right? That's right to the north of the United States. We know that it goes all the way up towards the North Pole. We know that the capital of Canada is in Ottawa. So that's 3 or 4 things right there, right? So it's our neighbor to the north. They speak English and French. It stretches all the way up to the North Pole, and the capital of Canada is Ottawa. So which of those is the most interesting? Well, maybe since we're talking about the land, maybe we talk about it's, where it is in relation to us. It's our neighbor to the north, right? So it's our, let me start right here. We'll write, so Canada, shall we say it's our neighbor to the north, or which borders the United States to the north? It's kind of cool to use that word border because that was a muscle word. Okay, so let's say which borders the United States, that's the name of a country, so capital U, United States to, whoops, T-O, not T-I-A, T-O, oh, I think I'm hitting a 0, not O. I am making mistakes. Okay, which borders the United States to the north? And then we'll just get rid of the line and we'll just go all the way to the comma. The second comma should be right at the end of the appositive. So Canada, which borders the United States to the north, has more land but fewer people than the United States. So the appositive is what goes between the commas. Which borders the United States to the north. It tells about the noun before the comma, which is Canada. That's a pretty interesting sentence. Now, how about this one? Russia, blank. That's the appositive. Russia, comma, appositive, comma, has the biggest land area of any country in the world. Well, what do we know about Russia? We know that it's in both Europe and Asia, right? We learned that in our continents, countries, and maps book. We know that they speak, they say, the way they say thank you is spasiba bolshaya. We know what else do we know? We know that it also part of Russia goes up towards the North Pole. We also know that part of Russia is very close to Alaska. Remember that? We learned that the capital of Russia is Moscow. And we learned that Russia has the highest mountain in Europe and the biggest lake in the world, the Caspian Sea. And we learned that it has the biggest lake in Europe, Lake Ladoga. We learned that, was there something else that we learned? Oh, the Volga River, the longest river in Europe. So which of those would be kind of interesting? Russia. I think it's kind of cool that it's in both Europe and in Asia. So let's put that in there because it's one of the only countries that's covers or is in two different continents. So the first word will come right after the comma. And a lot of times appositives do start with that word which because it's talking about Russia. So we're talking about the noun. So a lot of times which kind of transitions from the noun to the idea of the appositive. So Russia, which is in both Europe, there's that naughty word, starts with a capital E, should be Europe, Europe, which is in both Europe and Asia. That's also kind of a naughty word. It should be Asia, right? So Russia, which is in both Europe and Asia, has the biggest land area of any country in the world. And remember, you've got your comma after Russia, right before the appositive fragment and at the end of the appositive fragment. All right, one more, then we'll finish up here. So China, comma, appositive, comma, has the most people of any country in the world. Yeah, so what would you say? What do we know about China? Well, we know that in China they have a river called the Yangtze River. We know that panda bears live in China. We know that in China they say, the way they say thank you is they say xie xie. We know that China is in Asia. So what would you say? You could say China, comma, where the panda bears live, comma, has the most people of any country in the world. Or you could say China, comma, where the word for thank you is xie xie, or the words for thank you are xie xie, comma, has the most people of any country in the world. Or you could say China, comma, which has the longest river in Asia, comma, has the most people of any country in the world. So there's lots of appositives, and they make your sentence much more powerful when you teach your reader a lot more about the world, and you help paint interesting pictures in their brain. So today, to practice appositives, what you're going to do is print off this appositive sheet if you can. Looks like this. Here we go. I don't know why this looks so fuzzy, so forgive me for that. I'm sorry. Just going to see if it's better if I turn this light off. Sometimes it actually works better with the light off. I don't know, what do you think? Too dark? There. All right. How about that? All right. So first, please make sure you put your name and number at the top of the paper. And there we go. And then your job is to write the complete sentence, the whole sentence, with an appositive. So the first sentence is, it says light waves, comma, appositive, comma, travel from the sun to the earth in just 8 seconds. That's amazing. All right, so what are some things we know about light waves? We know, again, that they are the fastest thing in the universe, right? We know that they are the start of the light process. We know that they reflect off of objects and go into our eyes. So pick one of those appositives, and then down here on the lines, you're going to write the whole sentence. You're going to write light waves, just copy it, comma, add your appositive. Could be the fastest thing in the universe, or which start the light process, or which reflect off objects and into our eyes, comma. Then you'll write travel. So you just keep writing this on your paper. Travel from the sun to earth in just 8 seconds. Okay. Then on the back of the paper, or the second page of the paper, and if you can't print off a paper, you can still do this on a piece of blank paper. Just copy these sentences onto your paper if you're using blank paper. So it says Europe, appositive, contains 44 countries. So in the appositive, you're adding some information about Europe. So what do you know about Europe? Boy, there's so much about Europe. Could be it's the second smallest continent. Or it could be that that's where England is, or where France is, or where Ireland is, or where Spain is, or where Germany or Italy, or where the Pope lives. Could be, we know that they speak, I forget, many different languages, right? So pick one thing about Europe. You could say Europe, you could say Europe, the second smallest continent, comma, contains 44 countries. So you're going to write, you're not going to fill in this blank up here. You're going to write the whole sentence. So Europe with a capital E, comma, appositive. You could be the second smallest continent, or the continent where England is, or the continent that contains France and Spain, comma. You pick what you think is most interesting. And then finish up, right? Contains 44. 44. 44. What is 44? Yes, it's a palindrome. 44 countries. All right, period. And then the last one, fractions, comma, appositive, involve dividing shapes into equal parts. So what do you know about fractions? You know, you could say that fractions, you could give examples for an appositive. You could say fractions like 1/4 or 1/2. So you could say fractions, comma, like halves or quarters, comma, involve dividing shapes into equal parts. Or surprise me. Think of something else you know about fractions that you've learned this week. Again, you're not going to fill in this blank. Sorry. You're going to write the whole sentence with the commas, capital at the beginning, period at the end. All right. I've talked on long enough. Thank you for your attention. Do your best job. And don't worry about spelling. Of course, you can copy the words that I gave you, but when you're writing your appositive fragments. If you're not sure how to spell, then just sound it out. All right, thanks a lot, and we will talk to you later. Cheers.